Welcome to all in my YouTube channel NCERT e-teaching decoding NCERT. I am Dr. Kailash Meena going to explain mutation and pedigree analysis from class 12th biology chapter 5 principles of inheritance and variation. So what is the aim and what are the objectives of watching this video for the students of class 12th biology? So the objectives are to understand mutation and pedigree analysis of any family. So upon completion of this section, students should be able to understand: first, mutation is defined as change in the genetic material. A point mutation is a change of single base pair in DNA. The second learning outcome is inheritable mutations can be studied by generating a pedigree of a family. Now let's start our video. So what is mutation? See, in class 12th biology chapter 5 you will encounter the topic mutation very briefly, and only one page is designated for mutation in chapter 5, but we will learn more about mutation when we will encounter with the molecular mechanisms, the structures and functions of genetic materials, for example DNA, RNA, and then proteins, their structures, the processes. Then we will going to be understand the mutation better. But for now, why this mutation is included in this chapter? Because the topic which we want to study, that is genetic disorders, we need two concepts first for for understanding genetic disorders, and those concepts are mutation and pedigree analysis. So I will discuss mutation very briefly, but yes, I will clear some concepts here for you. So I have taken the statements as it is from NCERT, so better you connect with that. Okay, now what is a mutation? So mutation is a change, very simple. Mutation is a change. So change in what? So mutation is a change in features of living organisms, and as we all know from our previous videos and previous lectures, that all the features of organisms which are called characters are controlled by factors or genes. And as I already have mentioned, that genes are made up of DNA, and genes are located on chromosomes, and which those locations are called loci also. So finally we can conclude that gene is made up of DNA, or I am restating this as gene is a segment of DNA. See, we will learn more about genes, more about chromosomes, more about DNA, how DNA is packaged into a chromosome, how coiling and supercoiling occurs. But for now we must take this statement that gene is a segment of DNA, and that segment of DNA essentially includes a sequence of nucleotides. So we learned about the structure of DNA, RNA and proteins in class 11th biology biomolecules, and there we learned about the basic units of DNA and RNA, which are nucleotides, and the basic unit of proteins, which were amino acids. And we also learned that why sequence is very important in case of DNA as well as in case of RNA and protein, because the sequence of amino acids in any protein determines its structure, which is called primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure, and ultimately it is going to affect the function of any protein. So if we say that protein, if any protein is functional, any protein is doing any job because of the sequence of amino acids in that particular protein. And in our previous discussions or lectures, we have learned about many things about organisms and their features and the laws of inheritance, how genes are controlling the characters, how they pass from one generation to the another, how they affect each other, what are the processes of test cross, back cross, and codominance, incomplete dominance, dihybrid crosses, test crosses, gene mapping, recombination. And in all those mechanisms, ultimately proteins are the workhorses of cells, and cells are the basic unit of life. So ultimately, which we are going to observe, which we are going to note the characters or their interactions, ultimately the role of proteins we are observing. So what DNA does in any cell, or what DNA do within organisms, is very simple. DNA makes RNA molecules, and those RNA molecules makes proteins. It is not that much simple, it is very complicated process, and we are going to learn each and everything in depth in chapter 6. But for now, we must keep in mind that DNA is a sequence of nucleotides, RNA is also a sequence of nucleotides, protein is also a sequence of amino acids. DNA determines the structure of RNA, RNA determines the structure of protein, but yes, not complete DNA transcribes into RNA molecules. Short segments of DNA determines short RNA molecules. So those segments are called genes for now. And because of that sequence of DNA, the same sequence we are going to obtain in RNA, and because of that sequence in RNA, there is a fixed or particular sequence of amino acid in any protein, and because of that sequence of amino acids, a protein behaves in certain way, or functions in certain way, or looks in a certain way, either globular protein or fibrous protein or any protein. Clear? So I hope I am making sense and you have some elementary idea of DNA, RNA and protein, and that is why I am showing this diagram, so we are able to connect what I am saying or what I am trying to say. Or you can notice one thing also, that in this diagram you will never notice the nuclear membrane, because what I am saying is true for prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells, and prokaryotic cells do not have any nuclear membrane, but yes, they do have DNA molecules, RNA molecules as well as protein molecules, and the function is the basic mechanism is the same for all organisms. So DNA makes RNA, which makes proteins. The very simplified, oversimplified statement for how DNA behaves, how proteins behaves, how genes control characters. Now I am reading these statements for you as it is from NCERT, and if there will be any point, I will be clarify that. First, mutation is a phenomenon which results in alternation of DNA sequence. So the point must be noted here is the alternation of DNA sequence. It means change in DNA sequence, and consequently results in change in the genotype and the phenotype of an organism, because we know that genotype is a collection of all genes or alleles which are made up of DNA, and phenotype is collection of all characters, and the proteins are responsible for those characters, whether it is a purple flower, whether it is a white flower, whether it is a tall pea plant, whether it is a dwarf pea plant, whether it is spherical seeds on any pea plant, whether wrinkle seeds on any pea plant, whether curly hairs in humans or straight hairs in humans, brown eye colors or black eye colors. These features we are observing because of interactions of proteins. Now, in addition to recombination, mutation is another phenomenon that leads to variation in DNA, which in my previous video we talked about linkage and recombination, and in class 11th biology we also learned about recombination in meiosis first. So we know that recombination is responsible for genetic diversity in the living organisms, but yes, mutation is also responsible for the genetic diversity, because yes, it is altering the sequence of DNA, ultimately this is the sequence of protein and the function and structure of those proteins. Now, as you will learn in chapter 6, which I already have mentioned, one DNA helix runs continuously from one end to another end in each chromatid and in highly supercoiled form. See, if we will learn how DNA is packaged in any chromosome, because a chromosome is a complex structure made up of DNA and protein. Of course, the DNA is the first very important material in any chromosome, not proteins, and those proteins are called histone proteins. And DNA is coiled and supercoiled, and very systematically it is arranged in a chromosome. And this is a topic which is included in our NCERT syllabus in class 12th biology chapter 6. So we will inquire this in depth in our upcoming chapter. Now, therefore, loss or deletion or gain or insertion or duplication of a segment of DNA results in alternation of chromosomes. Since genes are known to be located on chromosomes, alteration in chromosomes results in abnormalities or aberrations. See, here you keep in mind that any change in DNA is called mutation, that is going to be ultimately changing the structure and function of proteins. Now, the change in DNA is possible in several ways, as you have learned in class 11th biology, that DNA is a very long thread made up of beads of nucleotides. Nucleotides are the basic bricks or basic units of DNA and RNA. So these deoxyribonucleotides, in case of DNA, there are 3 billion nucleotides in a thread. DNA is a double helix, and the variation, if we want to see the variation or see the sequence of DNA, the difference we found in any nucleotide is only a single base, a nitrogenous base. If you want to know more about the bases and nucleotides and the arrangement of DNA, I will take another video in chapter 6. But yes, you also have learnt in class 11th biology, and if you have not, you can recall that by reading your NCERT textbook chapter biomolecules. Now, so if I say the sequence of nucleotides in DNA, if I say the sequence of base pairs in DNA, if I say the sequence of bases in DNA, the meaning is the same, because ultimately the difference is only in bases. So sometimes you will encounter the sequence of base pairs, sometimes you will encounter the sequence of bases, and many times you will encounter the sequence of nucleotide, and which all means the same. Now, if I change any base in DNA with another one, it will be a change for DNA, and it will be a mutation, and this is what we call a point mutation. But yes, if you take many nucleotides, then also it is a mutation. If you add one nucleotide extra, then it is also a change. And because the complex mechanism how cell reads DNA sequences, RNA sequences, and how it interprets in terms of making proteins, so that mechanism is also responsible for several types of mutations, and those mutations are called sense mutations, non-sense mutations, missense mutations, frame shift mutation, deletion, addition, duplication. So these are several terms which we are going to encounter in chapter 6. Again, the maximum change which we can see in any cell or in any organism in terms of DNA, the change in the complete amount of DNA. So if a complete chromosome is deleted from any organism, if one chromosome is extra added to any organism, that we can see, okay, amount of DNA is affecting. So this is also a change on the organism level or the cellular level. It is also called a mutation. And finally, if you see that we humans and many plants and many animals have two sets of chromosomes. For example, we have 23 chromosome plus 23 chromosomes. It means two sets of chromosomes. So if any plant, for example pea plant, is having 7 plus 7, it means two sets of chromosomes, total number 14. So if it will have one another set, what about that? So if a pea plant have say 3 sets of chromosomes, if any wheat plant have 6 sets of chromosomes, these possibilities are only in plants. We are not going to see animals which have multiple sets of chromosomes abnormally. So these abnormalities are also, we can say them that these are also mutations, because the amount of DNA is also going to be changed. So there are many levels of variations, and those variations many people call them as mutations, many people call certain changes in DNA as mutation, but in the change in number of chromosome or amount of chromosomes or the sets of chromosome as chromosomal aberrations. So these are few terms which you are going to encounter in upcoming chapters, and I am giving you an overview so you can better understand the topic genetic disorders. Now, in addition to the above, mutation is also arise due to change in a single base pair of DNA. So what I am talking about, firstly, that you can, if you are changing one single base pair, for example A, T, C and G, these are basic base pairs or bases or nucleotides, and the sequence is like A, C, 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 A, T, G, A, C, anything can happen in the sequence because there are so many nucleotides. So if you change one single base, that is called as point mutation. And a classic example of such mutation is sickle cell anemia, which I am going to discuss in my upcoming slide. So deletion and insertion of base pairs of DNA, also called frame shift mutation. What are frame shift mutation? I will discuss in chapter 6, because for understanding frame shift you need to understand the genetic code and how it works. So we will discuss it in chapter 6. The mechanism of mutation is beyond the scope of this discussion at this level, which I have already told you. However, there are many chemical and physical factors that induce mutations. Now, when you understand the process of mutation, when you understand the concept of mutation, when you understand the significance of mutation, then a question will arise: why mutations happens? So, in very simple terms, I can tell you that if you are copying 3 billion nucleotides in humans, there is going to be any mistake 100%. So these mistakes are called mutations. So mutations happens spontaneously, but yes, some factors also induce mutations. For example, some physical factors, some chemical factors, and chemical factors means some chemicals, for example ethylene bromide and some insecticides. Physical factors, for example UV radiations, X-rays, gamma rays. So certain type of radiations may change the DNA because they are very lethal and they are very penetrating. You will learn more about these radiations and chemicals in physics and chemistry, and I am going to teach you about all these things in chapter 6. Now, so we have an idea of mutation, the change in DNA, either at base level point mutation, or chromosomal level, or frame shift level, or and we are aware about the mutagens, physical and chemical mutagens, and how these mutations are going to affect the cell or any organism by making different types of proteins. So those proteins are normal if there is no mutation, they may be abnormal there is a mutation. Now, one more thing, pedigree analysis. So before understanding Mendelian disorders, we need to understand two things. First, mutation, which we have discussed. The second thing is pedigree analysis. Then what is pedigree analysis and why we need to study pedigree analysis? See, if we are studying genetics, the transfer of characters from one generation to the another and the laws of transferring those characters, why we are taking so much of pain? For understanding the genetic behavior of human beings. But yes, the study of human beings in terms of genetics is not that much of easy, because we cannot perform genetic crosses on humans, and the lifespan of human is very big as compared to pea plant or Drosophila melanogaster. So it will not be easy to conduct any experiment, and we cannot force human beings to involve in controlled mating behaviors. So if you think about the test cross and the back cross in terms of pea plant, and if you want to apply that in human beings, how difficult or ridiculous thing it will be. So what we do, that we study the family histories or recorded family histories of any family and try to connect with our experimental data, and then we conclude something. And what we find is that the principles of heredity are the same in humans and in other organisms, but the study of human inheritance is not easy because of the inability to control genetic crosses, the long generation time, and the small number of offspring. Then why we have family histories of any character? Because of diseases. See, some diseases are very deadly for common people, and they cannot survive in natural conditions or the hardships they face. But in royal families, if any royal people discover any disease in their kids, they can take extra care, because they have the facilities to take care of those kids. So for example, hemophilia and color blindness are those type of diseases which we are going to study in our next slides. In for example, in Queen Victoria's family, there was a disease called hemophilia, in which a human cannot stop bleeding if it cuts itself by any means. So this deadly disease, because they knew that this type of disease can happen in the kids, so they were extra cautious about the disease. So we find those type of characters recorded in family histories, and we directly study those family charts by using some symbols and some tactics. So I am going to explain some of those tactics here. So what is a pedigree chart? A pedigree is a pictorial representation of a family history, essentially a family tree that outlines the inheritance of one or more characteristics. So here are two examples of pedigree charts. You need not to bother about the details, but you need to have a look at these charts. I am going to explain in my next slide what does these symbols mean. So here we are with few symbols used in pedigrees. So you can simply have a look and see that a square is represented by a male, circle female, and a diamond when we do not know sex of any individual in any family history because of the recorded history. And now if we dark those areas, dark those circles, squares and diamonds with any color, not essentially red color, it may be black color. So these will be affected individuals, for example affected male, female and sex not specified. And this one line, horizontal line, represents mating between two people, or mating or marriage between two parents. Now these two lines represents mating or a marriage between close relatives. Now this horizontal line represents marriage, and vertical lines represents the next generation, means daughter and sons. So here we can conclude that this couple has one daughter and one son, and because these circles are open, these are not filled with dark color, so they are unaffected or having or showing no character which we are recording. Normally the character will be a disease. Now in the next picture we can see that these two unaffected parents, female and male, having one disease son. So now we have an idea what these symbols represent. Now move to the introduction of the genetic disorders, because by understanding pedigrees and by understanding mutations we are going to study about the disorders. So broadly, genetic disorders may be grouped into two categories: Mendelian disorders and chromosomal disorders. So as I already told you that mutations may be at many levels. So if it happens and on the sequence of genome or sequence of DNA, it will be called point mutations, and because of point mutation, if any disease happens, this disease or this disorder will be called as Mendelian disorders. And if any disorder happens due to the deletion or addition of extra chromosomes, then we will call them as chromosomal disorders. Now the Mendelian disorders are mainly determined by alternation or mutation in the single gene, as I told you, because single gene is the sequence of DNA. These disorders are transmitted to the offspring on the same lines as we have studied in the principles of inheritance. The pattern of inheritance of such Mendelian disorders can be traced in a family by pedigree analysis, as we understood in my previous slide. Most common and prevalent Mendelian disorders are hemophilia, which we are going to study in depth, cystic fibrosis, which is not mentioned in our NCERT for in-depth study, sickle cell anemia, which we are going to study now, color blindness. Actually, this is not included in our NCERT textbook, but yes, we can study color blindness also, because it will be exactly same of hemophilia. The inheritance pattern will be the same for hemophilia and color blindness. And then finally the phenylketonuria. So we are going to study these Mendelian disorders in my next lecture. And thalassemia we are not going to study, but yes, the name is here. It is important to mention here that such Mendelian disorders may be dominant or recessive. I am coming to this point now, but before, by pedigree analysis one can easily understand whether the trait in question is dominant or recessive. How we can understand, I am going to tell you. Similarly, the trait may also be linked to the sex chromosome, as in case of hemophilia. It is evident that this X-linked recessive trait shows transmission from carrier female to male progeny. So I am going to explain these last 4 statements by coming back to this chart of pedigree analysis. Now we are going to study Mendelian disorders in my next video. There we will study sickle cell anemia, hemophilia and phenylketonuria, and along with hemophilia I am going to give one idea of color blindness also. Now if we know what we are studying, then it is easy to make predictions, but only simply looking at any pedigree chart, I am going to give you some tips that you can determine whether this pedigree chart belongs to any autosomal trait, whether this pedigree chart belongs to any sex linked trait, whether this pedigree chart belongs to any dominant trait, or whether this pedigree chart belongs to any recessive trait. So first, as from our previous lectures we know that we have autosomes and sex chromosomes, and I clearly stated in my previous video of sex determination. So we humans, for example, have 46 chromosomes. Out of those 46 chromosomes, 44 chromosomes are autosomes, and X and Y in case of male and X and X in case of female are sex chromosomes. So we have sex chromosomes and autosomes, and in general these autosomes have genes controlling the characters of our phenotype, and sex chromosomes decides our sex, either maleness or femaleness. But this is not true always. Sex chromosome also have characters for normal phenotype, and yes, other chromosomes also influence the characters of any sex, but I am taking these statements very basic, so you will be able to relate this topic at beginning. Now the autosomes, or the 44 chromosomes, 22 plus 22 in two sets, the behavior of autosomes is exactly same in case of males or in case of females. So if any gene located on autosomes, we can see the pattern of inheritance same in males and as in females. But yes, if any gene is located on sex chromosome, either on X chromosome or in Y chromosome, we can notice a very interesting and weird pattern. For example, if you can imagine that any gene for any disease or any character is located on Y chromosome, then only boys will have that disease. Girls will not have that disease because girls do not have any Y chromosome, and that disease will be passed from father to son for sure, because we are getting Y chromosomes as it is from our father. Now coming to the X chromosome, there is more interesting patterns you can observe, like any boy have X and Y chromosome, any male have X and Y chromosome, but the son of this type of male will never ever have his father's X chromosome. This is the fact. All boys inherits their X chromosome from their mother only. This is not true for autosomes. We can have independent assortment of autosomes, but this X chromosome is very special because we always inherit X chromosome from our mother, not from our father. So in my lecture on sex determination, you can learn more about the pattern of inheritance of X and Y chromosome. Now we boys have one X chromosome and girls have two X chromosome. So this is a girl and this is a boy which have only one X chromosome. So then you can imagine that if any gene or allele which is dominant or recessive in case of female, then if see, let's have example of hemophilia. We are not going to discuss hemophilia here, but let's have an example of hemophilia for understanding. So if I denote X superscript H as hemophilia's character, this female is a homozygous. Now this female will be heterozygous and this female will be homozygous for normal. So there may be three possibilities: homozygous for hemophilia, heterozygous for hemophilia, heterozygous for normal, homozygous for normal. So because hemophilia is a recessive character, you can see that only in homozygous condition any female can have hemophilia. But if we consider the case of male, we can see we males have only one X chromosome. So either we have hemophilic gene or we do not have any hemophilic gene. And if we have hemophilic gene, then we have hemophilia for sure. If we do not have any gene, we will not have any hemophilia. So what is interesting here is that if a male have hemophilia gene on its X chromosome, it is going to be a hemophilic male. But if any female is having hemophilia gene, it may be or may not be showing the phenotype. So females can be carrier, males cannot be a carrier. So this is how interesting the pattern of X-linked inheritance is. So we can see some weird patterns in X-linked and Y-linked inheritance. So these characters are called sex-linked characters. And other characters, for example, sickle cell anemia and myotonic dystrophy, which are shown by these diagrams, are called autosomal character. Now in autosomal characters, you can see both males and females are affected, and they are affected roughly in equal proportion. If you study large pedigree chart, see here, if you see the second chart of sickle cell anemia, there are very few organisms, few individuals included in this pedigree chart, but in real life we includes very long, very lengthy pedigree charts including several generations and many individuals. So there you can notice these patterns. Now if males and females both are affecting, then only having look, not not reading the description. So if you have a look on any pedigree chart, if both male and females are affecting, if both males and females have that character, then this will be an autosomal. If only males are affecting, only females are affecting, you are seeing when any this type of pattern, that may be sex linked. Okay, and so now these pedigrees belongs to autosomal. Then next thing is, if that character appears in every generation, then it will be dominant, and if it skips any generation, it will be recessive. So what does this statement means? This statement means that in this diagram, in first diagram, you can see that this affected son or male have affected parent, this affected daughter have affected parent. So every affected individual have one affected parent. But if you consider this example, these affected male and female do not have any affected parents. So this is what we call the skipping of generation. So if any trait skips the generation, if you see in one generation that trait, in next generation you are not able to observe it, then you can say it is recessive. So here we encountered with two concepts. First, if you see both males and females are affecting, then autosomal, and if only males and females are affecting, then sex linked. Next thing is, if character appears in every generation, dominant. If character skips any generation, recessive. So we can have four types of patterns: autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, sex linked dominant, sex linked recessive. So I am simplifying these things for you, that for class 12th biology NCERT, there will be only X linked recessive. So for sex linked, you need not to bother for X and Y chromosome, you need to bother only for X chromosome, and in your syllabus there will be only X linked recessive. So when I say that any character may be sex linked, it will be X linked recessive for you. So you need to differentiate between only autosomal dominant and autosomal recessive. So here are two examples. So the example of autosomal dominant is myotonic dystrophy, and the example of autosomal recessive is sickle cell anemia, and we are going to study in depth the sickle cell anemia, which is autosomal recessive, phenylketonuria, which is also autosomal recessive, and hemophilia, which is sex linked or X linked recessive, in my next video. So this is all about pedigree analysis and mutations. So now we are ready for studying the genetic disorders, which are Mendelian disorders, in my next video. Thank you so much you all for your patient listening.